Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a fascinating tactical postmortem. We have to ask the big question: how does a team armed with literally the world's most explosive player fail to take home the ultimate trophy? Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. On one side, you've got Kylian Mbappé, a guy who drops a legendary hat trick in the final and walks away with the golden boot. It is a showcase of absolute, undeniable individual brilliance. But then on the flip side, France goes home empty-handed. No trophy. It's this staggering paradox, right? An unbelievable individual performance that somehow resulted in a complete collective team failure. So, how exactly does that happen?
Section 1. The World Cup Nightmare.
To really understand this tactical failure, we have to first unpack the massive, almost suffocating weight of expectations dumped squarely on the shoulders of one young superstar. Think about it. At just 19 years old, he conquers the world in 2018. Fun fact, he was actually the first teenager to score in a final since Pelé way back in 1958. Fast forward to Qatar 2022, he wins the Golden Boot and puts up a hat trick in one of the greatest finals we have ever seen. Looking at that kind of staggering early career resume, the entire footballing world just firmly believed this next tournament would be all his.
But you know those immense expectations? They quickly morphed into a massive tactical burden. Every single defender targeted him. Every team prepared specifically to stop him. When you're the undisputed focal point of your nation, you also become the absolute center of every single opponent's game plan. The pressure from fans was huge, sure, but that tactical pressure from opposing managers, that fundamentally shifted how the game was played against France.
Section 2. The core disease: overdependence.
So we need to shift our focus away from just Mbappe's individual pressure for a second and look at the glaring systemic flaw in France's overall strategy. They were relying way too much on just one guy. Let's break down this painfully predictable three-step playbook they fell into. Step 1. Need a goal? Pass to Mbappe. Step 2. Need a counterattack? Pass to Mbappe. Step 3. Need inspiration? You guessed it. Pass to Mbappe. I mean, it sounds kind of comical when you lay it out like that, right? But think back to the matches you watched. This overdependence made the French tactics incredibly stagnant. Half the time it felt like the other attackers were barely even touching the ball. And look, if you're an opposing manager, a team that easy to read is that much easier to shut down.
And this brings us to a timeless truth of the sport. Football is a team game. You absolutely cannot win a World Cup entirely alone. Even absolute legends of the sport, like Lionel Messi, needed Argentina's robust support to finally lift that trophy. Cristiano Ronaldo needed Portugal's help throughout his entire career. It doesn't matter how explosive your star player is, a one-man game plan is always going to hit a brick wall against elite competition.
Section 3. Tactical flaws uncovered.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is when we look at the specific on-pitch tactical missteps that opponents successfully exploited. Mbappe is at his absolute best when he's doing three things: running into open space, playing out wide on the left wing, and attacking defenders one-on-one. But opponents completely neutralized his greatest weapon, his blistering pace. How'd they do it? Well, they defended super deep with low blocks to just completely deny him that space. That forced him to drop way deeper into the midfield just to get a touch on the ball. So instead of sprinting in behind the defense, he's suddenly receiving the ball totally surrounded by multiple defenders.
A really key part of this strategy was double marking. Basically, this is a tactical defensive setup where two, or sometimes more, defenders are heavily committed to a single star player. They completely cut off his space and essentially dare the rest of the team to beat them. Opposing managers were basically looking at France and saying, "We're not letting Kylian beat us. Somebody else is going to have to do it." And man, that led to a disastrous domino effect for the entire French system. Because their main star was neutralized and forced to drop deep out of those dangerous areas, the rest of the team was just totally exposed. The midfield completely lacked creativity. Without Mbappe acting as that constant release valve out in open space, the attacks just got so slow. The entire French offensive engine essentially ground to a halt because, well, they really didn't have a creative plan B.
Section 4. The compounding factors: pressure and leadership.
So we've talked about the physical tactics on the pitch, but we also have to look at the psychological elements off the pitch, because those deeply impacted how the team executed. For years, football was completely dominated by Messi and Ronaldo. Now, the world wants a new king, and Mbappe is the clear favorite. But consider this timeline for a second. Messi won his ultimate World Cup at 35 years old. Mbappe is still right in his prime years, yet the expectation is that he has to achieve absolutely everything right now, immediately. Every missed chance becomes a major headline. Every defeat is treated like a national crisis. It is an incredibly unfair amount of pressure, and it really just reminds us that despite his otherworldly talent, the guy is still just human.
This leads us directly into the biggest off-field debate right now. Can he become the leader France actually needs? Because being an incredible, world-class player and being a true leader, those are two very different things. Ask yourself, who stepped up to calm the team down when the tactical plan fell apart? When tactics fail and the team is struggling to break down a defensive low block, fans and teammates naturally look for a calming, inspiring presence to sort of change the game mentally.
And the team often looked visibly frustrated and totally disconnected out there on the pitch. His body language was heavily criticized during those really tough moments. But we do have to look at this impartially. While some say he definitely needed better body language, others argue he simply needed more tactical support from his teammates. The undeniable truth here is that true leadership develops with experience. I mean, even Ronaldo and Messi faced massive criticism early on in their careers before they finally grew into those iconic leadership roles.
Section 5. How opponents evolved.
We really can't just talk about France in a vacuum here. We have to discuss how global football tactics have rapidly evolved to close the gap between top-tier nations. And this brilliantly illustrates a harsh new reality in world football. There are simply no more easy games. Teams like Argentina, England, Spain, Brazil, Portugal, they all boast world-class players now. Defenders are faster and way more athletic than ever before. Tactical systems have vastly improved across the board. Because teams intensely study every single weakness, stopping one superstar isn't just a minor adjustment anymore. It is an entire game plan. The gap between nations is smaller than ever, and winning a World Cup today is just incredibly difficult.
Section 6. A stepping stone.
Finally, we really need to ask ourselves if we're being far too harsh by labeling this recent tournament run as a complete disaster. Just look at this incredible trajectory. He wins the World Cup at 19, secures a golden boot and a hat trick in 2022. He's got countless records under his belt, but honestly, the most important part, he still has plenty of prime years left. He has already achieved more than most football legends do in an entire lifetime. Keep in mind, Cristiano Ronaldo never won a World Cup, and Messi waited until he was 35 to finally get his. Mbappe's story is far from over.
So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Was this actually a tactical failure, or simply the brutal start of Kylian Mbappe's ultimate redemption story? Football history tells us that great players always adapt. They learn from their tactical shortcomings, and they come back even stronger. It is going to be absolutely fascinating to see how world football's tactics continue to evolve, and exactly how France and their star player respond. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helped you see the beautiful game in a whole new structured light.